Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is a hybrid live-action and stop-motion animation film following the journey of a little shell named Marcel as he searches for his family with the help of his grandmother, Nana Connie, and a human filmmaker, Dean Fleischer Camp. The film is a meditation on grief and the courage it takes to step forward and choose life in the face of loss. In this video, we'll explore how the film approaches these themes as seen through the wistful perspective of Marcel. Per usual, there will be spoilers for the story of the film, so I recommend checking it out before proceeding further. One of the strongest elements to the film is how the themes of grief and loss are explored through the key relationships in it. We see this in Marcel's ongoing relationship with his grandmother Nana Connie, and Marcel's newfound relationship with the usually off-camera filmmaker, Dean Fleischer Camp. The film mostly takes place in an Airbnb house within its rooms and outside in the nearby yard. As Dean makes a documentary film about Marcel, we see through his camera lens and learn more about Marcel and his surrounding world. Slowly, we realize that Marcel's wistful, almost childlike perspective is burdened by a great loss. Dean and the audience learn that Marcel has been separated from his family after two previous occupants of the house, a man and a woman, had a big breakup, and the man left with his belongings, accidentally scooping up most of Marcel's family of shells in the process. In the present day, Marcel remembers his family through little etchings that he makes on a wooden panel while tending to life at the house with his Nana Connie. The film tackles the weight of grief and loss as seen in Marcel's longing for his family, but also in his initial inability to take action to find them. This emotional quality is true of grief, where it can be paralyzing to the one who has lost a loved one, or someone or something dear to them. If grief involves different stages of processing thoughts and emotions, it's possible that Marcel has not been able to fully grieve the loss of his family. The film uses his relationship with Nana Connie to drive in this point when an opportunity arises for Marcel to do an interview with the news anchor Lesley Stahl for the 60 Minutes show. Nana Connie sees it as an amazing opportunity to broadcast their situation and that it could lead to clues to help Marcel find his family, but Marcel is reluctant at first. He doesn't want to reopen the feelings of shock and loss that he felt after his family was taken away, and he's also afraid of opening himself up to hope and being disappointed again. I think the film touches these emotional milestones very beautifully because it has given enough time in earlier scenes for the audience to empathize with Marcel. We've learned more about who he is, his personality, how he sees the world, and what's most important to him. As a little shell in a big world, Marcel is quite vulnerable to physical challenges around him. If we ask about what is Marcel's core need throughout the film, I think this would be Marcel needing to find a place where he belongs in this big world, and that's with his family. In the absence of his family, except for Nana Connie, Marcel tries to make do every day with his surroundings in the house as Dean films him. He putters around in a tennis ball, traversing the floor. He helps Nana Connie with her garden, tending to plants and insects, and he muses wistfully about mundane things in the house that most people would mostly ignore. So when Nana Connie finally convinces Marcel to do the 60 Minutes interview, it's a huge step for Marcel in his character arc as he's embracing change. He's willing to take risks again, which is a major step to healing in the grieving process. What's even more emotionally devastating is that Marcel later learns the ailing Nana Connie passed away during the filming of the interview. Her death is a marker to this stage of his journey, but it's also mentioned that Nana Connie wanted Marcel to be able to go on living his life on his own without relying on her. Through her wisdom, Nana Connie realized that Marcel was emotionally frozen in living his present life through tending to her, when he really needed to be taking more proactive steps to find the rest of his family. The other main relationship in the film between Marcel and the filmmaker Dean Fleischer Camp also supports the themes of wrestling with grief and loss. We don't get to see many details of Dean's life, but we learn through Marcel's inquisitive questions that Dean recently separated from his wife. More importantly, Dean doesn't want to talk about it, and he often deflects by telling Marcel that the little shell should be the main focus of the documentary. Dean's filming of Marcel ties directly into the 60 Minutes interview because the filmmaker uploads videos of Marcel on YouTube that quickly capture the attention of a worldwide audience. While these clips attract some unwanted fans who film themselves outside the house for viral videos, the clips also alert the 60 Minutes crew, leading to the eventual interview with Lesley Stahl. There's a subtext underneath this documentary filming that hints at Marcel and Dean as two characters dealing with grief, who are actually helping each other through the process of healing. Perhaps their shared experiences with grief and loss allow them to see each other's needs in an empathetic way. At the end of the film, there's a hint that Dean has started to pursue dating someone, so we see that he has become more open to reviving his romantic life. So Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is a wistful film that explores the simple power of meaningful relationships as a healing salve to wrestling with grief and loss. It speaks to our need to not shut ourselves away in isolation when we are burdened with the pain and suffering of having our world turned upside down when we lose someone. If anything, the film has a hopeful message that captures the fragility and timely essence of life.